Football on Off the Ball.
With William Hill, you can boost your winnings on the Sunday game with new Bet Builder Extra. Only with William Hill. Download the app today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
This is News Talk.
So, Cup Final on Sunday. It is the trilogy. It is Shells against Athlone at 3 p.m. in Tala. Shells, of course, won it 2 years ago. Athlone won it last year. So, best out of three maybe this Sunday. Who knows? We've got one from either side on the line with us today. We've got Chloe Singleton, who's zooming in, and we've got Christie Gray from Shells, who's actually with us in studio. First of all, Christie, you're very welcome. How are you keeping?
Thank you so much.
And Chloe, we decided to keep you apart before Sunday. We couldn't get you both in the studio just in case the beef got a little bit too real. But you guys know each other, right? You guys have a bit, as much of a friendship as you could possibly have between these two clubs. Outside of football, you get to know each other pretty well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Christy, if you want to take over. Like we know each other. I suppose the rivalry as well from playing each other the last couple of seasons together, and then off the pitch. Yeah, I think we've got a bit of a bond, got a bit of a friendship over the years. But it's always a pleasure to play against Shells and to obviously get the friendships off the pitch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing the 2 years I've been here. I think you get the chance to, meet and play with the girls and get to know them a little bit better off the pitch as well. And Chloe's always been a standout player for Athlone. She's made our life difficult, that's for sure, in the 2 years I've been here anyway. So, yeah, delighted and nice to see you, Chloe.
Right.
You too, Christy.
So this is a friendly rivalry between the two clubs then?
I guess you could say as friendly as possible.
I suppose it depends. I think it's kind of become a bit of a rivalry over the last couple of years. Obviously, people are naming it the trilogy this year. Whoever made that up is fairly stuck. But yeah, no, I suppose, there is a bit of a friendship rivalry as well. But I think on the pitch, each team wants what's best for themselves. There's a bit of selfishness on the pitch, but off the pitch, I think there's good friendships.
We might just go back a couple of weeks, Chloe, to the league win and actually those sort of moments being able to soak them in, because I know you were saying at the end of last season, having won the cup, that the league was very much in your sights for 2024. What was that experience like for you, given the injury, given the unavailability for those final couple of weeks of the season?
Yeah, personally, it was tough. I think as a group, as a whole, it was amazing to be able to get it over the line. Obviously, my season was cut short, so that was a bit unfortunate for myself personally. But when you look at it as a whole perspective, when you look at it as an overall, it was amazing to get the win and to finally get it over the line, because I think we've had a lot of injuries over the last couple of weeks and over the last couple of months. So yeah, to finally get it over the line, it was huge. It was a huge push from all the girls. Obviously, myself, there was a bit of a bittersweet moment for myself because it wasn't as how I had planned at the start of the year to be lifting the trophy personally. But still, I'm still thrilled, and I don't think it's properly sunk in. Maybe after Sunday, that's when I can fully reflect on things.
Yeah, that's definitely the sense that we got from Laurie Ryan when we had her on the show after you guys won the league. Of course, when there's a big game left to play, every sports person is always going to say, listen, we're focused on the next game, the season's not over yet, etc., etc., and it is quite cliched. But I really believed it when Laurie was saying it. It didn't feel that she was just saying it for the sake of humility or anything like that, that the league was amazing to win, but it was definitely tempered in terms of celebrations, that is, by what was to come this Sunday. This is a huge part of the jigsaw of this season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we wanted to overly celebrate the league. There's still obviously the cup final in sight for us. If you look at things from the bigger picture, we've won the league and it's the first time for Athlone Town to do so. So it's history in the making, but we want to push that history boundary and we want to do the double on Sunday. It'll be a huge thing for the club and probably something that would be very, very hard to do again. Obviously, as players, we'd want to keep pushing every year, but to maybe put the icing on the cake and maybe do the double, that would be obviously something that we're all thriving for and all looking forward to possibly doing. It's still a huge mountain to climb on Sunday, and the girls know that. So I think, after the Bows game 2 weeks ago, we didn't want to get too ahead of ourselves in the celebrations. We kind of wanted to enjoy that moment and take in the moment and take in the night, but also get back to work for the next 2 weeks that were to come.
What's your last couple of weeks been like, Christy?
The last couple of weeks, I think, has been busy. Obviously, the top of the table was pretty tight for a while. Trying to fight with everyone for everything that you can control. There were certain things that were out of our control, but we just focused on winning and, focusing on our results. Obviously, Athlone came through and was able to win the league. And they've been really consistent and strong throughout the whole year. So I think both Chloe and her whole team, they should be really proud. And I think gives us sort of extra motivation for this cup final to show up and fight for each other. And I think it's been a really busy couple of weeks. An honor to have the chance to be in the cup final again against them. So the third year in a row. And I think even reflecting, starting here last February, we had the President's Cup against Athlone, and and then last year in the FAI Cup final. So I think again to have the opportunity to play against them in the final is something you don't take for granted, and just trying to enjoy these last few weeks as much as possible.
Right, and there's a big familiarity piece there that I want to get into in just a moment, but I think we should establish your own story first, Christie. This is just the end of your second season in Ireland, right? So you came from Canada to Sweden and then Ireland. That's generally speaking your path, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So from Vancouver, BC, Canada, went to University at Queen's, so just outside of Toronto, if people are familiar, and then had the opportunity to do my first season abroad in Sweden. And then, arrived here in February, pre-season of last year. So this is my second year with Shells. It's been a pretty exciting and memorable time here. I think you get, sort of like Chloe was saying, you get the opportunity to meet some pretty special people, both on the field and off the field. And because the country is so small, you get to know people, their families, their jobs. I think the really cool part about this league is everyone has a really interesting story. A lot of people are still involved with various, jobs off the pitch, volunteer activities as well. So you get the chance to know some pretty incredible people in the game, both as players and then everyone leading their own path, whether it be working, say, for the FAI or in the banks, in schools and crushes with kids. There's some pretty amazing people a part of this league. So it's been really cool experience these 2 years.
100%. It's a really good point, even from a media standpoint. I don't think there's a single interview you can do with a player in the league who doesn't have some sort of story that kind of brings it beyond football. So how did Ireland come on your radar?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I think there's actually a Canadian who put me in contact who had played with Becca. So Becca Cray, she's an amazing person. She's still involved with our team, does a lot of team bonding and organizing that way. So it was a connection through Becca who put me in touch with Noel, and he sort of said to come on over and give it a try, and if things worked out, could stick around. So super fortunate for the opportunity that things did, and have had the chance to stay since. So
that's a former teammate from college.
It wasn't a former teammate. It was actually Ciaran McCormack. So she's a Canadian, and she put me in touch with Becca, and then sort of put me in touch with Noel. So the little Canadian-Irish connection. She, with dual citizenship, actually played for Ireland, I think, back in the day, but is also Canadian. So she knew my college coach, and the rest is sort of history.
Right. That's amazing, all those connections. We've had Ciara on the show a few times. I suppose it's only a matter of time before she gets you to try and move down to Limerick at some point.
Yeah, no, in fairness to her and what they're trying to do at Treaty, for years there isn't a professional league in Canada. So I think what she's tried to do over here, both for that club and just providing a pathway for Canadians or just individuals to have a place to play. And Ireland's been that home for Canadians and some internationals for a really long time, for countries like ourselves who don't yet have a league in place. So credit to her and what she's trying to do with Treaty.
Then how different has the style of play been from Canada to Sweden to Ireland?
I'd say between like Canada and America, we have sort of a very direct style of play, you could say, athletic style. There's some pretty technically fascinating players that you see over here. And I think something that at home would maybe be a little bit different is just the athleticism or the direct style of play. And I would not say that I'm a technical wizard by any means. I think athleticism has always sort of helped to carry me through my career. And that would probably be sort of the biggest difference between North America and then playing over in Sweden. They'd be kind of a similar style to at home. And then here is more, technical and build-up play, possession. So I've learned a lot since being here on and off the field. And it's been a really cool challenge. There's some phenomenal people in this league, though. There's not a lot of, Noel Murrays you see floating around. And so it's been a really cool learning experience.
It also contributes so much from our perspective to the league as well. And I presume that's something you'd vouch for as well, Chloe, because that's another one of the topics of conversation with Laurie a couple of weeks ago, is that the North Americans that have been in Athlone, first of all, they love to be able to attract North Americans because it can be a little bit difficult to attract Dubliners to Athlone, is the point that she made, that sometimes it's actually easier to look abroad to get players in, but also just creates this rich culture in a place like Athlone, in a club like Athlone, and everybody benefits from that sort of shared knowledge, even if it's not overtly spoken about.
Yeah, like obviously I think it's growing now in the league, the amount of Americans, Canadians and X, Y and Z that are coming in. Like we obviously have Brenda as well, she's Cameroonian. We have a wide variety of nationalities in the squad. But yeah, it adds to the culture, it adds to the friendships that you create. It really does. It kind of bonds the teams in ways that you probably wouldn't expect if you were, because for Athlone, there's only two of us that are actually from Athlone. It's myself and Kaylee Shine. So it is difficult to get homegrown international players or players here for the squad. So yeah, it's a nice pathway to have, that you have the internationals, you've got your Americans, your Canadians coming in, and obviously yeah, it does add to the culture of the squad. Obviously we've Maddie, we've Jessie, we've had other Americans that have come through the likes of Maddie. She's got, I think it was herself and Dana that initially came through a couple of years ago, and then obviously Dana moved on to other things for herself. But no, I actually enjoy having the Americans and having everyone in the squad, because it does add to the culture, and you just get to know people. You get links to other places. Like Christie was saying, how she got here from Ciara. Like I actually never knew that, and I don't know, is Ciara new into the league this year with Treaty? I don't know, was this her first year as CEO
First or
over
second
there?
year, I'd say,
Yeah.
It's her second year, is it? Yeah. So it's interesting to learn everyone's stories of how they actually end up at the club. Obviously, Maddie and Dana, I think it was Dana who initially came over, and then she gets Maddie over. Then obviously players have to move on. Dana had to move on. Then Jessie comes over. We also had Carabin, who was here last year. So no, it's interesting to get to know the players and get to know the links. And obviously, if you have aspirations to go elsewhere, you have the links there from the players who you've played with.
There's also a really interesting perspective on the complete flip side of that, which is being one of only two people from Athlone in this Athlone town team. Obviously, you had to go to Galway for a while to play. This is still a very new thing. Do you notice a different sort of tint to the sports culture now in Athlone? Has it made that much of a difference, where not only do you have a team in the Midlands, you got a team that's bloody good in the Midlands, that's winning trophies, that's spreading success, and I presume you're starting to notice this sort of uprising a little bit when it comes to the younger generation, looking around being like, I can do this. I don't have to go to Galway. I don't have to go to Dublin. I can actually have a very, very successful football career right where I am.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like when I first joined the league, Athlone wasn't in the league. So it was quite difficult for me. I think I had a spell at Peamount and I was only playing underage. So then I moved down to Galway, where I had a great couple of years. I think it was five years at Galway, 5 seasons, and I'd never change a moment that I had down there. Like I really enjoyed my time down in Galway, but I think I knew my time was up, and Athlone were on the rise. They were. I know when they first came about, Tommy Hewitt, the manager at the time, was always on to me. But my life was in Galway at that time. But yeah, in terms of the younger generation now, we have a really good underage squad. We have a really good pathway there into the senior squad. I think people now are realising that the Midlands is actually a place where football can be created. I think for years and years there was you always had to go to Dublin. There was never really football outside of Dublin. And I think now, especially with the success we've had over the couple of years, people are starting to put us on the map. I don't think we've been on the map for the last number of years, and I think it's a great thing to see. And obviously being from Athlone is very special for me, because it's very rare that you get to play for a club in your own hometown. So yeah, it's a special moment for myself and Kaylee to be involved in such an amazing club and such a successful club in such a short period of time. But yeah, I think it has definitely put us on the map, and there's young kids that come down to our games, and their aspirations are to play for Athlone Town now when they get older. So yeah, it's amazing to see, and it's amazing to be that kind of a role model to the younger kids and to the younger generation, and to see the likes of the young squads that are forming now. Like when I was growing up, we never had grassroots football really. There was only one team around me local, and I was fortunate enough to play for them. But now we've got maybe 9 or 10 grassroots girls football teams around us. So we're very lucky to have grown the amount we have over the last couple of years. But it's an amazing thing to see, and I'm just very happy that we have finally put the Midlands on the map.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's really interesting, that growth in grassroots level, to be fair. Can I ask you about the last 2 months then? Not to bring it always back to the injury, but I'm just interested in your role in the squad now as a central part of this team. I presume they don't just leave you on a stretcher and forget about you for 2 months, you've had a central role to play even off the pitch over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very difficult to kind of adapt to a new role. It's been weird. There's been a lot of emotions that have come with it. Obviously, the first couple of weeks, I wasn't really down and around the squad because I was very immobile. So to kind of get myself back into the swing of things was probably the most difficult part, and to get myself probably to adapt to a new role. Like, obviously, I'm trying to be there as much as possible, make myself present. I don't want to be uninvolved. I want to be as involved as possible. So yeah, I'm probably just in the background doing maybe a little bit of logistics for the girls that maybe no one really sees. But yeah, it's more so of an encouragement role than anything. Like, you still want to be involved. It's still been a successful year. You don't want to just slip through the cracks when an injury occurs. Obviously, we've got Carrie Ann as well, who's tore her ACL a couple of weeks after myself. So the two of us have kind of maybe created a new role where we just kind of are supporting the girls. We go and we watch the sessions. As depressing as it can be to watch the session, you want to be out and training. When we go in, we see the physio. So yeah, it was probably the most difficult part was probably adapting to the new role and adapting to how can I be helpful now? How can I be useful towards the girls? That was probably the most difficult part, and it still is a challenge. And I think going into next year, it'll be a challenge because I don't know when I'll be back playing. But I'm probably selfishly a little bit grateful that it's towards the end of the season now, because I won't have to sit through that. But no, it's been an interesting role, and I think I've learned a lot about players off the pitch rather than on the pitch. You get to see things in a new light, which I'm probably really grateful for, to be able to reflect on how the season has gone, how players adapt to different things, and you get to speak to players one-on-one, whereas you probably didn't get that chance when you're on the training field.
That's very interesting. Does Ciaran Kilduff create a special role for you? Does he give you things to do, or is it very much you come along and just almost like just be around the players and do your thing, or has he actually got you doing specific things?
Well, he wouldn't really have me doing specific things, but he'd have me more involved. Like, we still are in regular contact. If there's any issues, anything, he'd probably reach out. But no, there's no specific role for myself. I'd probably just kind of put it upon myself to be around the girls, because when people get injured, sometimes they just kind of slip through the cracks, like I said, and they just probably won't show up. But I didn't want that to be me. I didn't want my evenings to be sitting at home. I wanted my evenings to be out with the girls. So yeah, I don't have a direct role as of at the moment, but it's just encouraging the girls. It's just being there. It's being around, because the last thing I wanted to do was not to be involved. And in such a special year, in such a big year, in the title run, it was a horrible time to get injured, because obviously it was a three race title at the time of the injury. So yeah, it was a difficult time to get injured, but for me, the most important thing was to stay involved in any way I possibly could. So if that just meant turning up to trainings, making sure my face is still there. But yeah, I suppose just doing the little things around, like making sure everyone's all right. That's probably my main priority now. And
then, are you all right at the moment, or how is the mobility after the injury? Because obviously it was a very, very severe situation you found yourself in.
Yeah, at the moment I'm plowing through my rehab. I've had 2 surgeries so far. I thought I was going to need a third, but I don't think I do anymore. But no, I'm quite mobile now. I'm back driving. I'm back on my 2 feet, so I'm happy out. Like, it was probably the worst part was probably not being able to drive. So it was getting lifts to training, getting lifts here, there, and everywhere. That's probably the worst part. But now I'm more mobile. I'm perfectly fine. Right. It's just getting through the injury now. It's getting through the rehab, getting through all of that. And like I said, I'm quite happy that it's going into the off season now, that I won't be missing a whole season of football. It's I have the Christmas now to get myself right. I have the Christmas to kind of just to get my mental right, and to get the ankle obviously hopefully fixed, hopefully back to full health. As I said, I don't have a set timeline of when I'm actually going to be back. Hoping to be at the start of next season some stage. Probably will miss a few games, but yeah, selfishly, I am happy that it's towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and you might get to forego a bit of pre-season as well, which is the most important thing before next year as well. Very best of luck on that front, Chloe. Hopefully it all comes together nicely over the next few months for you. Just on your side of things, Christie, I was just rewatching some of the Cup semi-final earlier on. You must have been unbelievably happy with your own performance in that game. I think it was 2 assists and a goal. The goal was Arjen Robben-esque, cutting it on the left-hand side, top corner. When you have a moment like that, do you analyse your game much at all, or do you walk off and think, my numbers are pretty good today, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just try and bring it to the final?
Honestly, I think you can reflect on things like personally. I want us to win, and if I can help, whether that be through assists or goals, you sometimes surprise yourself, not even knowing if you have a left foot. No, but I was delighted that we were able to win. It was a really exciting cup semi-final. We didn't necessarily have an easy path, with Galway away, Rovers away. To get that home draw, obviously against Cork, was exciting, and I think anytime you get to play at home, kind of gives you that extra bit of fire. And anytime you have the chance, to assist or score, it's always exciting and fun. And I think as a forward, and we always say this, you kind of, it's if you score or assist or get on the sheet, you kind of get the credit. But there's a lot of players like, my roommate Maggie Pierce will put in a shift every single week for 90 minutes. And same with players, like Roma, Alex, Kate, like they put in a shift every single week. And maybe if you're not scoring goals, you don't get that sort of same hype or coverage. But I just always like to sort of direct it to those people who show up and put in those absolute shifts.
We were actually speaking to somebody in the men's game recently who is a right winger who played in Sweden and is now playing in Ireland as well, in Zach Albuzetti, who plays for St. Pat's. And he was just talking about the joy that he's getting playing his football right now, because the manager, the way he's set up, it's just getting the best out of him. He's allowed to run at players, he's allowed to dribble past players instead of playing in a very passing system, very heavily oriented towards a passing system. Is that your experience as well? Are you in a system that gets the best out of a right winger, that gets the best out of an attacker?
Our system, it's kind of difficult. I talked to Leah about this too, Leah Doyle, who plays on the left wing back, sort of a 3-5-2 we've been playing. So wing back is kind of a tricky position. I guess you'd say maybe more traditionally a winger. Sometimes Mess and say a wing forward, because definitely defensively not used to that responsibility. So that's been an adjustment. Love to get up and attack. But I think luckily when you have, so like Jess or whoever behind as a right full back, it kind of allows you to get up the pitch and really attack all together, which has been fun. So I think an adjustment, because usually used to just playing on the wing, but wing back, obviously you have more of that defensive responsibility as well. So it's been a bit of an adjustment, but I think things have really started to click, to your point, in the last few months, within the team, and we've been able to have some really great team performances. So the Cork semi-final being an exciting one. So I think we figured things out in the last little bit, which has really allowed us to unify and step forward and prepare for obviously Sunday.
In terms of preparing for this specific opponent for Sunday, is there much of that done during this week? Do you just focus on yourselves? Do you look at the tape from, the league game 2 months ago? How do you prepare for what is a very familiar opponent?
It's a good question, and I think it's a bit of a blend of both. So I think similar to what Chloe's mentioning earlier, a lot of it's focusing on us and ourselves. It's not going to be changing anything too drastically, focusing on what we can control and planning how we usually would with analysis, gym, field training. We're focusing on our goals and our mission, which doesn't change week to week, but then obviously learning from what we can from, obviously we've faced Athlone a few times now, and they definitely make our life difficult in some ways. It'll be a good game. They'll be up for the challenge, absolutely, just as much as we will. So I think just doing what we can to prepare properly individually. So, eating, sleeping, doing all that properly. And then from a training standpoint, focusing on us, because we can't, at the end of the day, control how they're going to come out. But if we can just focus on our goals, which don't change week to week, and our preparation, we should be in a good spot. So,
Chloe, do you think you're going to feel the pre-match nerves as much as you would if you were playing this weekend?
It's been a strange week. If I compare this week compared to last year, this time last year, obviously I think last year it was my first ever cup final. I was a bag of emotions last year. It was nerves, excitement, everything. I don't think anything has fully hit me yet. I think until maybe Saturday night, Sunday morning, that's when the nerves would fully set in. But yeah, in terms of our preparation as well, like Christie said, it would probably be along the same lines. But yeah, my feelings towards the game, I probably will be nervous on the day. We're all human at the end of the day. I think everyone's going to get nervous. Anyone who's playing, anyone who's involved in either squad, there'll be an element of nerves. But yeah, so far I haven't really felt any sort of I wouldn't say emotion towards it, but yeah, it's been very different compared to last year. We've our final preparations this evening, so I'm sure something will hit me then when we have our team talk this evening and do our analysis. I think that's when it will probably fully set in.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just one other thing, Chloe, that I need to ask you about. Obviously, there's been a big head-to-head between Ciaran Kilduff and Eileen Gleeson this week in the media. I'd actually just like to go back and go to Kilduff's original point, because the original point that probably flared this whole thing up before it became a bit of a storm was actually a very sound one, about the carrot, the motivation for domestic players to be able to get an Ireland call-up one day, to be able to stay in the country, to study here, to work here, do whatever you want to do, and still have that carrot of playing football for the Republic of Ireland at the end of it all. The genesis of this, it seemed to have got out of proportion this week a small bit. The genesis of Kilduff's point is a very sound one, you'd have to think.
Yeah, I don't think there was any malice in what he was trying to say. I think he's probably in the same boat as every other League of Ireland manager. I think every manager, whatever club they're going to be with, is going to be a little bit biased. I think that's just the way it's going to be. You're going to think your players deserve to be in the squad, and I think that's just how he feels. That certain players probably deserve maybe more of a look in than other players. I don't know. I haven't really spoken to Ciaran on what was said. I just can see what's in the media myself. I do think it's been blown out of proportion completely. But in terms of wanting to play in Ireland and, dangling that carrot of you could play in Ireland, you could play for your, like, say for myself, for example, for your hometown, and then have the opportunity to go and play internationally. I think it probably was a bit of a kick in the teeth with what Eileen came out and said, in terms of she doesn't have a reason to be ringing Ciaran Kilduff, and if she doesn't have a reason to be ringing him, that's probably her own opinion. But I think every manager is going to have the same opinion on their own players. They're going to think that some of their squad should be given more of a look than other players, and that's just going to be all over. That's not going to be just in Athlone. I'm sure other managers think it. I'm sure other players probably think it as well. So when you look at it from the bigger perspective, I think it was completely blown out of proportion. But look, that's what the media is there for. They're there to make drama, I suppose.
Yeah, like the thing as well, like we've already discussed your own story and coming through the ranks of Athlone and actually being part of this setup that's exploded in popularity, that's exploded in success, and there's no questions about where the trajectory of that is going. So it is completely reasonable to think that trajectory will continue, where somebody can play for Athlone Town and play for the Republic of Ireland in the same season. Like, the logic follows.
Yeah, definitely. I do think there is logic behind Ciaran's point, and I think everyone can agree that that's probably the logic he was going for. We see it with Julianne Russell. She's Galway through and through, plays for Galway United, and she's a senior international player. And don't get me wrong, Julianne is an outstanding player and deserves every bit of her position in that squad. But yeah, like when you look back at what Ciaran has said, I think he has every right to voice his opinion and has every right to say what he said. But yeah, it's just been blown completely out of proportion, and it's a bit of tit for tat now on social media, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly taken on that element of things. This weekend, I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, because I suspect where it might go, but just talk us through, before we let you go, the final preparations, just over 48 hours away from kickoff. How are you going to spend your next 48 hours getting ready for Sunday?
It's a good question. Go, Chloe, if you want to go first.
Sorry, I can't see, so I don't know who you're directing your question to.
Sorry, Chloe. Yeah, go ahead, Chloe, since you're out of the room.
I think our preparations are probably similar to what Christie was touching on earlier. We kind of are probably approaching it like every other game. We don't want the occasion to get to people. Obviously, it's probably the biggest occasion in women's football in Ireland, in my opinion anyways. So you don't want that to get to the players' heads. You don't want that to get into the mind of people. So yeah, it's probably just approaching it like any other week we would. We're preparing the same. The only probably difference we've done is tweaked our training days, just because the match is on a Sunday. Right. We like to train 2 days before a game, so we've obviously changed our training to this evening. That's probably the only major difference that's been in the week. But other than that, I think players are excited. Maybe tonight I might see an element of nerves, but so far I haven't seen any of that in any of our girls. I think everyone's up for it. I think everyone's raring to go. Everyone's just excited now, and I think we're all probably grateful that we actually are in this position and that we have an extra game to go, because obviously last week was the last game of the season, and it was kind of a playing for nothing kind of a game for all the teams. So yeah, we're just probably grateful to have another go of things, and obviously it's called the trilogy. And what I'll probably be saying to the girls is don't take it for granted. I know I'm probably contradicting myself in saying this, and that both Shells and Athlone have been in it 3 years in a row, but it's a very, very hard place to get to. It's a cup final. They're not you don't come by them every year. Last year was my first year playing in them, as for yourself, Christie. And it's one of those occasions that you just want to take in. You want to take in every moment. If you're a player, manager, family member, fan, you want to take in all of the moments of the cup final day. So that's probably my message towards the girls, is just take it in. Don't let the nerves get to you. It's probably one of a once in a lifetime experience for some girls. They might never get to it again. So that's probably the message that I'll be given to them. And for myself, yeah, it'll be an interesting one on the sideline. I
can imagine it's going to be an early start for the folks in Vancouver on Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it would be 7 a.m. kickoff.
Right.
I was chatting with some of my family and friends, so who might tune in. Luckily, my dad's actually coming over, which will be exciting.
Great.
Yeah, and I think just from a team standpoint, we'll do like what Chloe was saying, final team preparations tomorrow. Just making sure we're all organized, everyone's in a great headspace. And to Chloe's point as well, like a cup final is not an opportunity that comes around every day. It's a difficult thing to get to and to have the opportunity to play in. Talking about our path to get there too, with some of the tough away fixtures. It's something you have to enjoy. And like Chloe said as well, it was my first chance having to play in a cup final last year. And they're an extremely emotional and exciting event. And so just to appreciate every part of the day, part of the build-up and the people around you, and just hopefully encouraging everyone in Ireland to come out and support some of the biggest women's Irish football stars. And to your point earlier, just about, the squad and everything. And this is one of the most exciting football events, male or female. So encourage everyone to come out and see some really talented women's footballers, both Irish and beyond. So I think it'll be a great match on Sunday, and really looking forward to it.
For sure. Is it the first time your dad's been over to watch you play?
He's been over a couple times.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
He came over with us to Champions League to see that last year,
Right.
and then the Cup Final last year. So really excited for him to be over, and for all of our friends and family who will be there to support, and for everyone to hopefully witness. One of the most biggest, exciting women's football events in Ireland. So
absolutely.
Should be fun.
Well, very best of luck to you both, Chloe Singleton and Christie Gray. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and see you
Thanks for having
Sunday.
us.
Football on Off the Ball.
With William Hill, you can boost your winnings on every game with new Bet Builder Extra. Only with William Hill. Download the app today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
This is News Talk.